Breaking now at 4, we just confirmed medic is on scene of a near drowning. This happened at the Morrison Family YMCA off of Bryant Farms Road. A young child is being treated with serious injuries at CMC. We do have a crew on the way to the scene. We'll bring you a live report momentarily.
Meanwhile, we are learning the congressman shot this morning is in critical condition following a surgery. Representative Steve Scalise and 4 others were hurt. This was when a gunman opened fire on them at a baseball field in Alexandria, Virginia. Republican representatives were practicing for a charity event taking place tomorrow. Thanks for joining us here at 4 o'clock. I'm Brooke Katz.
And I'm Xavier Walton. At this hour right now, we know the gunman is dead. Only one lawmaker was shot, Steve Scalise, a congressman for Louisiana. 4 others also injured, 2 Capitol policemen and 2 aides. We want to get right over to Jay Gray with the latest developments from Virginia.
Just after 7 this morning.
Shots being fired, and there are people running, possibly victims involved.
The rattle of gunfire replaces the crack of a bat.
I still got shots being fired.
An attack on Republican congressmen as they practice for a charity baseball game.
We were doing batting practice, and all of a sudden we heard shots, and it was clear pretty quickly that there was a shooter there with a high-powered rifle.
Police say that shooter was 66-year-old James T. Hodgkinson, a man with a violent criminal history. Witnesses say he sprayed the field with bullets, firing dozens of rounds.
He was crouched behind a wooden piece of the stands, and he had a AK-47.
At least 5 people were hit.
We have another one down. I think it was a total of 5 down. We will need another back.
Among the wounded, House Majority Whip Steve Scalise. As a member of congressional leadership, he had a security detail, Capitol Police, who rushed in, engaged in a firefight that lasted several minutes.
The security detail saved a lot of lives.
Hodgkinson died as a result of wounds from the gun battle. Federal agents are now searching his home in Belleville, Illinois, and remain at the scene of the attack, trying to piece together how and why it happened. Jay Gray, NBC News, Alexandria, Virginia.
And we want to remind you of the congressmen at this baseball field. 2 of them from the Carolinas. Congressman Mark Walker of North Carolina was there. He is unharmed. And Congressman Jeff Duncan of South Carolina left before the shooting happened.
And witnesses at the scene of this shooting telling their story now. Again, this all happened at a ballpark while those GOP leaders were practicing for their charity event. One man on scene describes the terrifying moments.
I heard it was a charity event, a congressman charity event, and then I heard a guy shot. At least 5 people, had a semi-automatic rifle, and nobody knows the conditions of the 5 people right now. That's just all I heard.
And messages of condolences are pouring in from social media. Rachel Brown is following the tweets on social media. Rachel, many lawmakers tweeting out their condolences, including Gabby Giffords.
That's right, Xavier and Brooke. It's just a tragic day for our country. Former Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, you may remember, she was shot in a mass shooting 6 years ago in Tucson, Arizona. She tweeted this out today: "My heart is with my former colleagues, their families and staff, and the U.S. Capitol Police, public servants and heroes today and every day." Also tweeting Representative Mark Walker of North Carolina. He was actually at that baseball field when the shooting took place. He says, "Please pray for Representative Steve Scalise and others shot at our baseball practice this morning for our charity event tomorrow evening." And the Alexandria sheriff also retweeting words of encouragement from a resident who wrote, "Couldn't be prouder of our members today. Heroic work in harm's way." And so, again, just a very tragic day for our country. I'm going to be following social media, and I'm going to give you more reaction as this day unfolds.
All right, Rachel, thanks.
Meanwhile, also breaking right now, at least 4 people are dead after a shooting at a UPS warehouse and customer service center. This was in San Francisco. A company spokesman says a UPS employee in his uniform opened fire on employees this morning before turning the gun on himself. UPS officials say at least 4 others were hurt. 3 remain in the hospital. Police escorted the other employees to safety.
Now over to weather with Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Brad, another hot and humid day here in the Carolinas.
It is incredibly sticky out there, and we do have pop-up storms again like yesterday. They're just not as widespread as they were yesterday. We've got them mainly in the mountains and foothills, but also in the upstate of South Carolina. A little area of storms developing in southern Lancaster and Chesterfield counties. These are drifting to the southeast. And once again, here in the mountains and especially the foothills, we've got numerous showers and thunder showers developing, some in Cleveland County as well as parts of Burke, Caldwell, and just lee of the mountains. There's a little trough developing here. These will continue to develop and drift to the southeast, but we've got full sunshine right now here across the Piedmont. And today, the hottest day of the year so far, 91 degrees out there with dew points in the 60s. It feels like it's well into the 90s. Now, coming up, we're going to talk about this hot, humid, and stormy pattern that's going to be sticking around for a while, Brooke.
Brad, thank you. One person is dead after this fiery crash on I-85 last night. This happened right at the border near North and South Carolina near exit 106. NBC Charlotte's Richard Devane has details.
Good afternoon. I'm standing right in South Carolina at the state line off of Interstate 85. You can see traffic is beginning to move once again after last night's very horrific fatal accident.
Crews spend most of Tuesday night and Wednesday morning clearing away damaged debris, twisted and charred metal from what's left of 2 tractor trailers that collided, claiming the life of one of the drivers. It happened around 8 Tuesday night at the North-South Carolina state line.
Just heard a sonic boom.
15 minutes after Kevin King pulled into a nearby truck stop off 85.
I mean, it literally just shook the truck.
King says he knew something was terribly wrong.
I looked out the window and all you see is like one of them old war stories, like a mushroom cloud just went up.
South Carolina Highway Patrol says that the accident was a result of a truck heading north, somehow losing control, breaking through the wire fencing across the interstate right into the path of that truck heading south. King says he rushed to help when he saw a driver emerge from the rubble.
And we were hollering at him, get out of there because the flames was coming this way.
Knowing that time was of the essence and flames quickly consuming the rigs, the driver, 44-year-old Amando Luna, didn't run. Instead, he went back toward his burning cab.
All of a sudden, he just kind of reached in and he took both hands and he was pulling something. And I was like, man, get away from there. But he was pulling his wife out.
Medics took Luna and his wife, 36-year-old Gertuvius, to Cleveland Regional Hospital. Unfortunately, the driver of the other truck did not survive.
How they survived for that crash, I mean, it was unbelievable.
In Cherokee County, South Carolina, Richard Devane, NBC Charlotte.
And this afternoon, that roadway is back open, although we are still seeing some slowdowns around the area of I-85. You can see particularly along the northbound side there. Keeping an eye on this. No reports of any accidents or incidents there. But again, this is that area where it happened last night. Otherwise, seeing a pretty smooth commute on 85 well past the state line. Xavier?
Developing now, at least 12 are dead after this high-rise fire in London overnight, and officials are expecting that number to climb. 250 firefighters battled the blaze through the night. The fire was so bad, people were seeing it jumping from the building as the flames spread. NBC News reports one woman wrapped her baby in a blanket and dropped her from the 9th floor. At least 78 other people were injured in this fire. CMPD is stepping up its efforts to tackle the nationwide opioid problem. The department held its weekly press conference this morning where they announced new gear for officers dealing with fentanyl. This news comes after drug overdose cases right here in our area.
Obviously, with the lacing of these drugs, we're taking it very seriously from a vice standpoint, pushing forward with, of course, our own precautions, and trying to get to the bottom of what the distribution networks are.
CMPD says that the drug fentanyl is very addictive.
A man accused of arson booked into jail overnight. James Pruitt Jr. now facing several felony charges, including attempted murder and cruelty to animals. This comes after a mobile home fire Sunday morning. 3 people, including a 3-year-old child, were inside at the time. They got out safely, but a dog and a rabbit both were killed.
Well, the Panthers today for the second day of minicamp, and there was a little extra action during the practice. NBC Charlotte's Kelsey Riggs was right there and saw all of it. She joins us with more.
It was a lot hotter at day 2 of minicamp for the Panthers on Wednesday. Not just the temperatures outside either. Things actually got a little heated on the field. During the portion of practice, our cameras were not allowed to shoot. Derek Anderson and Captain Munnerlin got a little wrapped up, but players on both sides say a little bit of feistiness isn't necessarily a bad thing.
You got one of the shortest guys on the field, and you have one of the tallest guys out there, and they're competing. They're going against each other. You know, things happen. You know, they worked it out. You know, DA and Captain, they're veterans in this game, and they did what veterans do. They went to the sideline, they talked their problems out, and, you know, we're good to go.
We're not going to let them come out here and just push us around every day. You know, and that's just kind of what it gets to. Defense is always going to be a little bit ahead of the offense just because of the way that they play things and install things, and they're reacting to things that we do. We have a little bit more of a learning curve. But, you know, we're getting better. I thought as far as like tempo and intensity in practice was good.
And you said you guys were able to talk about it afterwards?
Yeah, we're good.
Awesome. So you can't really classify it as a fight, but other Panthers players did have to come over and separate Anderson and Munnerlyn. Day 3 of this mandatory minicamp wraps up on Thursday. Reporting at Bank of America Stadium, Kelsey Riggs, NBC Charlotte.
Today, all flags at state facilities flying at half staff in memory of a fallen soldier. Corporal Dylan Baldridge was one of 3 service members killed in Afghanistan this past weekend. The body of the 22-year-old was brought back to the U.S. yesterday. Baldridge was a native of Youngsville, North Carolina, which is just northeast of Raleigh.
The head of the North Carolina NAACP is joining the push for a new district maps to be redrawn. We told you yesterday how Governor Roy Cooper wants lawmakers to redraw these voting maps as soon as possible. Now Reverend William Barber says he agrees. Yesterday, the NAACP leader said because so many of the districts were ruled unconstitutional, the legislature itself is unconstitutional.
They're not in office because they won an election. They're in office, according to the courts, because they cheated.
That's it. Right, that's it.
And they use racial methods to cheat.
Governor Cooper called a special session for the redrawing of the districts, but the General Assembly denied that request. Now a 3-judge panel will need to decide how to redraw the districts and whether to hold a special election.
Coming up, your mom probably said it to you, and you've probably said it to your own kids. Don't swim within 30 minutes of eating. But is it true? Our Verified team getting answers will tell you what they found ahead at 5.
And $70,000 up for grabs to anyone who can help authorities capture 2 escaped Georgia inmates.
But first, new charges in Michigan over the Flint water crisis. Who is now accused of manslaughter?
Back to that breaking news we told you about at the top of the show of a near drowning at the Morrison Family YMCA off Bryant Farms Road. A young child is being treated with serious injuries at CMC. NBC Charlotte's Alex Shabbat just getting to the scene. Alex, I know you just got there, but what can you tell us right now?
Well, Xavier, the YMCA tells us that lifeguards pulled that child out of the water who is about 2 years old, and you can see it's a very active day here at the swimming pool, children playing in the water. Now, was also here at the time of this incident. We're told the child was transported to CMC Maine, and good news is was alert and breathing when transported. That's what we know right now. As we learn new information, we will keep you updated throughout the night. For now, we're live in Charlotte. Alex Shabbat, NBC Charlotte.
New at 4, Michigan's director for the Department of Health and Human Services charged in the water crisis in Flint. Nick Lyon facing 2 felony charges for involuntary manslaughter and misconduct in office. According to Detroit's Attorney General, Lyon failed to protect the health and safety of Flint residents. 4 other officials also charged with involuntary manslaughter.
Developing right now, a massive manhunt underway for 2 escaped inmates from Georgia believed to be extremely dangerous. The inmates have been on the loose now for more than 24 hours at this point after they overpowered 2 guards on a bus, killing both of them. As
NBC's Carrie Sanders reports, a $60,000 reward now being offered for their capture.
43-year-old Donnie Rose serving life behind bars. 24-year-old Ricky Dubose serving a 20-year sentence were on a prison transport bus like this. Investigators say an onboard security camera captured the hard-to-watch, cold-blooded murders of 2 prison guards.
It was either 4 or 5 shots, quick succession, just bam, 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 bam.
I saw 2 brutally murdered corrections officers. That's what I saw. I have their blood on my shoes.
Murdered corrections officers 58-year-old Curtis Ballou, a family man, and 42-year-old Christopher Monica, a father of 2 girls. The 2 inmates carjacked this Honda Civic for their getaway. Then, about 30 miles from the brazen escape, authorities say they broke into a home, ditching their prison uniforms, changing clothes. Later spotted inside this Family Dollar store. Both inmates armed with 9mm pistols.
The sheriff here fears that because of what's happened, 2 guards being killed, the inmates may think they have nothing to lose and could kill again. Kerry Sanders, NBC News, Putnam County, Georgia.
United Airlines issuing an apology Tuesday for an incident that took place 2 years ago. This apology comes after this video showed a Houston-based employee pushing a 71-year-old passenger to the floor during an argument over a ticket. That person filed the lawsuit last week. The passenger, Ronald Tigner, says he received a boarding pass that was illegible. According to the lawsuit, he made multiple attempts to ask for a reprinted pass, but United agents denied him one. Tigner is suing for $1 million. Now to some good news for flyers. American Airlines announcing it will not be reducing the legroom on its planes. American had planned to reduce the space between the rows to 29 inches instead of 30 in new planes. That would allow them to add more seats, but after hearing passenger requests, the airlines decided to keep that extra inch.
Scientists are a step closer to creating a safe tan. Ultraviolet rays, of course, are what darken and burn skin and lead to skin cancer. Now researchers have figured out a way to increase pigment in human skin cells without using UV. This is different from self-tanners that come in lotions and sprays. Researchers say it's still a long way from hitting store shelves, but could someday be combined with sunscreens. Speaking of sunscreen, you're going to need it if you're stepping outside today or in the near future. Brad, it's pretty hot out there.
It is steamy. The hottest day of the year so far in Charlotte. 91 degrees currently out there. Look at that sky. Doesn't that look hot? We've just got plenty of blue skies. Not as many clouds and showers as yesterday. We're sitting at 91 here in the Queen City, 91 in Wadesboro and Rockingham. Showers popping up in the foothills, but even there, the temperatures are well into the 80s. Let me show you the radar. For once, we don't have storms around Charlotte yet. That's going to change as we go through the evening. Bigger showers and storms down in the Midlands of South Carolina, heading down towards the PD region. This is where most of our activity is, and so far they've been relatively tame. Though I tell you what, this is a pretty good storm moving out of parts of Ashe County into Wilkes County across the Yadkin Valley. Also some pretty big storms moving through Caldwell and Burke County. In particular, this Burke County storm heading towards Morganton. There's a quick storm track, and it kind of shows you that this one is going to continue to drift to the southeast at around 10 to 15 miles an hour. Also northern Cleveland County into Rutherford County. Pretty good storms developing there as well. All this activity is drifting to the south and east, and with the heat and humidity, it won't take long to see more of these showers develop. You can see the flow, high pressure in the upper levels of the atmosphere. We're in that northwesterly flow, so storms that are developing across the Ohio Valley, Tennessee, Kentucky, these will be rotating in this evening. They'll dissipate after sunset, but then tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be like clockwork every single day this week. 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we're going to see these scattered storms, and it is going to be hot and humid. Upper 80s to low 90s this evening, with temperatures only falling back to maybe 70 degrees for an overnight low. Now, we're in the low risk for severe storms today, though the overall threat isn't super high. If we see any stronger storms, wind and hail would be our big concern. Tomorrow, big storms developing back to our west, so we'll have to keep an eye on the storm tracks to the west. Some of these might move in as we go through the next couple of days. You see the impacts today, damaging winds, hail, and flooding, kind of like what we saw yesterday, though the overall number of storms and the coverage is just a little bit less than yesterday, about half of what we saw yesterday. Futurecast shows these storms kind of weakening a little bit as they move down. So for the Charlotte area, we might escape most of the main storms, but the mountains, foothills, and the upstate, you're going to get on the action. This is the way it goes. One day your neighborhood is going to get hit. The next day you'll be dry. That's just kind of the nature of these afternoon and evening storms. But one thing is for sure, each and every day this week, with the heat and humidity and this front getting closer, we'll see the chance of storms going up a little bit, just a hair tomorrow into Friday, probably in the 50 to 60% range. But here's the thing, it is not going to be a washout any one of these days. You're just going to have most of the day hot and sunny, and then you'll see the pop-up storms in the afternoon. We're not seeing any kind of all-day rainfall heading our way. 30% chance this evening. Most of those storms will dissipate after sunset. Same story here for the Piedmont. We drop down to about 70 degrees. Again, chance overall 20-30%, not huge, but something to keep an eye on. That's the same story going into the weekend. These storm chances will be scattered each and every day. So you'll start most of the day with sunny skies. If you want to do pool, lake activities, do it early in the day. That's your best chance of getting them in dry. By evening, you'll see the storms around, and that will be even for Father's Day as temperatures remain right around 90 degrees every single day, Brooke.
Brad, thank you. Today is Nurse Appreciation Day, and Chipotle celebrating with a BOGO deal. Nurses, you can take advantage of the buy one, get one free deal on burritos, tacos, bowls, or salads. All you need is a nursing license or ID. The deal runs all day today at all Chipotle locations.
Stay with us on air and online as we continue to track the new developments of a shooting in Alexandria, Virginia this morning.
And later, first responders thankful for an act of kindness from a little girl, how she is helping to make a difference across the nation.
But first, one Florida family hits the jackpot twice. How their new wealth is also teaching them a life lesson.
Welcome back. A South Carolina couple $250,000 richer. The Rock Hill Herald reports the couple hit the jackpot after buying a scratch-off from the Bilo store on East Main Street. Bilo also celebrating this one. They received $2,500 just for selling that winning ticket. The couple says they plan to use the winnings to renovate their home.
Talk about a win-win. Well, imagine winning the lottery. Now imagine you and someone else in your family winning the lottery. Well, that is the case for one family in Lakeland, Florida.
Yeah, Abraham Shakespeare hit the lottery for $17 million back in 2006, but he was murdered for his fortune. Now, as Melissa Marino reports, years later, in a bizarre twist, his ex-girlfriend is now a winner.
It's hard to forget the story of Abraham Shakespeare. In 2006, he hit it big. He took a payment of $17 million from the Florida lottery, but that luck ran out when he met Dee Dee Moore. She was convicted for murdering him, burying his body on her property, and stealing millions of his fortune.
The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder.
Fast forward years later, there's a new millionaire in the family.
A lot of zeros.
The mother of Shakespeare's son cashing in on $1 million. Won at this North Lakeland Circle K from a $20 scratch-off.
She just was crying and screaming on the phone, and I was like, are you sure it's not $1,000, you know what I mean, or $100,000? And I asked her to send me a picture of the ticket, and when she did, I called her back freaking out.
But their good fortune comes with bad memories. Because of what happened to Shakespeare, his former girlfriend doesn't want to be identified.
We was up here at one point, and we was right back down here, and God brought us right here again, and I think we're going to just stay here because we don't want to be too high, you don't want to be too low.
But from his death, they say they've learned a valuable lesson.
Just watch who you trust and just be careful about it. And I just graduated college, so I have a little bit of education now that I did better than I did have back in the day, so I'm able to help my mom out a lot more, so that's just the most important part.
Still ahead, a 9-year-old North Carolina girl being called a hero, how her quick thinking saved her cousin from drowning.
Plus, the latest on the condition of the student released by North Korea imprisonment yesterday.
But first, we continue to follow the breaking new details of that shooting in Alexandria, Virginia that happened this morning where 5 people were shot, including a congressman.